The planet is heating up.
The oceans are becoming filled with plastic.
Change starts now. Change starts now.
We're on a countdown
To zero waste. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
This is the Zero Waste Countdown Podcast. Here's your host, Laura Nash.
Hi everyone! Hello! I'm Laura Nash.
And I'm Rachel Revoy.
And we have a special festive episode for you this week.
Zero Waste Christmas.
It seems like everybody has a Christmas tree who celebrates Christmas, typically.
Yes.
And I would say that getting a real tree is better.
I'm kind of wondering if a lifelong plastic tree is better. Or if not better, at least like okay.
Mm-hmm. So the reason that I think a real tree is better because where they grow here, I think it's about 12 years or so that it takes. But typically the rain will just like water it. So it's not like it's using a ton of like water resources. And they kind of grow like locally, so you shouldn't have to like fertilize them. And I do know some people put like spray around them to keep the weeds down. So maybe there's a little bit of that. And while they're growing for those 12 years or so, they're going to be taking carbon out of the atmosphere, which is really good. Then when you cut them down, they make your house smell really nice. And then you're supposed to get them like chipped afterwards so that they can be used. So I lean towards that. Now, I don't think there's enough trees really for everyone to do this.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if someone lived in like Arizona and they wanted a new Christmas tree, it'd have to get shipped, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have the luxury here of seeing all these beautiful farms and getting the opportunity of going and cutting down a tree or picking a tree if we want.
Yeah, like we just walk from our house to get
That's
one.
amazing. And I think in those scenarios, for sure, like cutting down your tree sounds so much better to me. However, the way I've been raised is my mom tells me a story every Christmas where, you know, when she lived in BC, she remembers driving along and just seeing like the clear cut of those. I think it was a Christmas tree farm. It might not have been, but I think just the image, and she kind of felt like any tree that's cut down is a shame.
Okay, so BC looks like someone took a buzz clipper that you would cut a guy's hair with and like just razored the mountains, like the mountainsides. BC's brutal.
That must be what she saw, and I think it really like left a mark on her. And my mom is first of all, she's a great person. I love her to pieces. But she's also a very smart and well thought out person, especially when it comes to things for the environment. She grew up on a farm, and she's just always been conscious of this sort of thing. Probably where I get it from. So she expresses that moment and then talks about, you know, how in her mind, buying one plastic tree, using it for our lifetime, theoretically, since these trees, they're just made of plastic, like they're not getting less in quality necessarily. Could I like inherit this plastic Christmas tree and use it again? But right as I'm saying that, I remember that they do shed, so I think they look pretty scraggly after a decade or two. So I don't know if that's actually that realistic.
You'd have a Charlie Brown Christmas tree.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's a way to like
stick them back together.
So, like, I'm trying to defend the plastic Christmas tree here, but I know in my heart of hearts, like, I would prefer a real tree.
But I think it's a good argument, and you're probably right. Like, the Arizona thing is huge. Like, are there Christmas tree farms in Arizona? I don't know.
Do they even put up Christmas trees? I don't know. Your American listeners are like, what?
What are these Canadians talking about? But, yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, if Christmas trees aren't growing near you, then it would probably be better to get plastic, right? Because plastic, you've got the oil and gas, you've got the, you know, you're going to have to use an industrial process to make that plastic tree. How long does your mom's tree last? Like, has she had it for decades?
We had one for a good decade when I was a kid, but I do remember them getting a new one because the old one did look scraggly. Like, that was her words, too. Because it sheds, and we've had cats, so they, like, play at it, and I think it does like just become more sparse looking after some time. But like, let's assume you get 10 years out of it. If you consider, you know, every time you get a tree, and if you live in a place where it's not easily accessible, the transport to carry a tree in, like those are heavy, right? They're big. So that's something that might be part of the argument as well.
You know what sucks too is when I lived in Gatineau, we went to an actual tree farm to get one, and then they like wrap it in this like giant plastic netting, and I was just like, no, how do I stop this?
it'd be great if we all lived on these beautiful acreage properties like you. You could just go and make your maple syrup and then go get your tree and live a beautiful wilderness experience. But
the reality is it's not like that. The world's not like that. So
I think we'd all be much better off if it was, if the world was like that, like how you forage so much of your food too and grow it. I shouldn't say forage because you physically plant the seeds. And
we do forage though.
Oh, you do?
A little bit, yeah. We found some puffballs this year and some ramps. So ramps.
Oh yeah,
are kinda like...
I got some from you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when the trilliums are out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice place, but yeah, I'm extremely grateful that I have that, and I know that other people don't, and so in that case, like, you would have to weigh it out with the carbon of like the effort that it took to make the plastic. And you know what? A lot of environmental studies don't consider the end of life of a product. So the Environmental Protection Agency in a Scandinavian country, I think it was Denmark, did a study on bags. And basically they found that environmentally, it's like kind of worse to make a cotton bag than it is to make a plastic bag. But they say right in the study, we do not consider littering or the end of life, and they burn all their garbage. So every study they've done, they're considering that those bags are being incinerated at the end of its use. So they're not accounting for those plastic bags that are like killing whales or like breaking down in plastic. And they say that right in the study, but the plastic bag industry loves that study. So, I mean, yeah, I think if you have a plastic tree, that's fine. And if you have a real tree, it's probably fine, right?
Yeah.
You can pick and choose what's good for your area. And yeah, if you can keep it for a long time. But end of use, definitely the real tree would win.
Yeah.
Because what do you do with the plastic tree when it's
That's the thing,
done?
Phil,
You guys
right?
aren't going to take it, are you?
No, we won't recycle a plastic tree.
Full disclosure, Queenie.
Full
Waste Solutions
disclosure.
will not take even if you chop it up and throw it in
Even
the
if
blue.
you chop it up. Even if you try really hard to hide it in your blue box, we
Just
will
a little
not.
bit each week.
just a little like fake pine needles just like sprinkled each time.
Oh,
No.
like the nylon from the toothbrushes. Because
Yeah.
people are like, oh, you can recycle it.
No,
It's
you
like,
can't.
okay, those things are going to blow away. Like, they're not going to make it into any recycling bale.
I do recommend, once again, for everybody to go to their local recycling service and try and get a tour to see what actually happens. And I'm sure lots of municipalities would say this. We would love to take all your material, but if there isn't a place for it, if no company's going to take it from you, and if there isn't the physical means to sort it out, like a nylon toothbrush bristle, like there's no way that's making it anywhere. Like the technology to be able to sort that out of a line is insane, but also like we have people who sort everything. So imagine if they saw like little bristles, they're not picking them up. But even if it was to make it to the company, it would be so inconsequential.
Yeah, so well, speaking about bales, like people just think, oh, plastic, you can recycle it. But in most material recovery facilities, they do have to be big enough to be put into a bale, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of why those small things like straws, forks, sucker sticks don't get in, right? So would you say that things smaller than a little plastic bottle like wouldn't make it in typically?
Yeah, like I think at one time off the cuff I said, oh, if it's smaller than the palm of your hand, it's probably not making it into a bale. And even though it's not like a legitimate way to always think about it, there's other things to consider. Like if it's a really dense plastic container, like a yogurt container, it's smaller than the palm of your hand and it's good. But if it's just like a lid or something loose and small, like you can just logically think of what's small. Like if it's smaller than a lid, for sure, it's not going to make it through. But things like straws, forks, knives, those plastic utensils, they fall through the sort line, they go to the landfill.
Yeah. Like I just take a regular fork and knife and spoon from my kitchen and put in this little cloth thing so that I can not ever use a plastic fork. But then once I did that for a while, I was like, wait, why am I buying food and garbage anyway? So then I just kind of stopped completely buying things that are in styrofoam or that are in that paper, which is tough because then you have to sit down, which costs a little bit more money usually if you're sitting down to eat. But you can order things like salads and soups, which help bring down the price if you're sitting down at a restaurant.
That's true.
But I find that helps when you're going through airports too at the holiday season. If you do have time between your flights, if you can sit down, they're actually really quick. Because they're
That's
airports.
Good. Nice.
So I usually try and sit down and eat some food. It's not the greatest, but then I don't have to produce.
Yeah, and it's expensive in airports anyway, so you might as well like take that money and sit down. Like, that's tricky. That's another thing that makes flying not only the jet fuel and all the problems with the plane itself as far as energy consumption, but just the waste on the plane as we talked about, but also in airports. Like, it's designed to make you buy things too. Like the way airports are designed, like they want you to shop and they want you to consume as much as you can and buy all these snacks for the flight to make it a little bit more enjoyable because all people have their own issues with flying, I guess.
Yeah, flying is not really a very fun experience anymore, that's for sure. You can, as an alternative here, if you're in the Ontario area, or Canada really, is take Via Rail.
Yes.
Now, Via Rail has some issues too, so it's good, but they do have a lot of the single-use plastics. But the thing about Via Rail is they don't give it out for free. So good job.
Yeah, that's something. I love taking the train.
Me too.
It is
I love it.
expensive. That's the one thing I have about Via. It should be better utilized because it's such a great channel across southern Ontario, but
Oh, yeah.
it's not accessible.
No, it's too expensive. And you know what is really annoying is the cars are always empty. Not always.
Right.
But a lot of the times when I take it to Toronto, there's like 10 of us in one whole car, which could fit, I don't know how many, but a lot more than
It's
10.
so disappointing, and that's not great for the planet, right? That's bad.
And they have dining cars too, so they know how to serve people zero waste. Because I've taken the one to New Brunswick from Ontario overnight. It was like $300 for the trip, which is actually like not the end of the world when you think of how far it goes. And then they have a dining car. So you can go in and you sit down and you eat your food and you can drink wine. But you get a sleeper car and you can get it with 2 people and you have your own bathroom and you can like just watch Netflix. And
Oh my gosh, that's a lot for that price, but was that round trip or one way?
one way.
Okay.
Yeah, so it is still expensive, but and what I'm saying is you're right. It is like kind of more of a luxury way
Yeah.
to travel, which is too bad because I think that they could make more money if they had more discounted seats, and they do have the classes separated. They want to be classist.
Well,
and
that's fine. Be classist, but if you're charging an economy rate, it should not cost me to get from Belleville to Toronto. It shouldn't cost me $120 round trip. The Via is the only one that connects all those cities. So if I want to work in Toronto but live in somewhere like Cobourg, how do I do that without spending $60 a day for that ticket?
yeah, if it was cheaper, that's what more people would do, and you get more cars off of the road, and
Yeah.
it would just be so much better. Yeah, I
So
think about
great.
this stuff all the time, especially because with more remote working, we can work outside
Yes.
of city centers. And if you don't know about Toronto, the prices of houses just like skyrocketed and they're like millions of dollars. So people are not able to afford to live there. So they're moving out, which is like terrible for the environment.
People don't blink an eye at commuting an hour and a half to work in the morning, 2 hours. Like
Yeah.
people do it regularly. There's a solution there. And the Via is supposed to be a Canadian rail service.
There are good things about it too. And the last thing that I did want to talk about a little bit this Christmas is palm oil, because I don't know if you've seen the band commercial from, I don't know why I just did air quotes because nobody can see me, band.
There should be a sound effect for air quotes. What would that be?
I don't think there is one. But yeah, the band commercial about the orangutans, it's so sad. Have you seen it?
I've seen the ads organically like pop up on my social media feeds.
Oh, I think you can just go on YouTube and like Iceland band commercial and it'll come up. And it's basically just about the orangutans losing their rainforest homes because of palm oil. So in the US, 10 years ago or so, everyone decided they would save the environment through like biofuel, using vegetable oil to fuel our cars.
Right.
Like they were like, okay, that's the answer. And they estimate that all the forests they burned down in like Borneo, Indonesia, Malaysia actually contributed so much carbon that like you're never going to save, like it just doesn't make any sense. Like they burned all the forests down, a whole bunch of carbon went into the atmosphere. I think it was one of those years the most carbon that's ever been released into the atmosphere in like 4,000 years. And then yeah, the orangutans are all losing their homes, and so that's why you've probably seen stuff about palm oil this Christmas.
So sorry, is the biofuel, how does that equate to the forest being cut down?
Because they're using that for farmland for palm plantations for the fruit. So
Okay.
there's these fruits produce quite quickly, and then you can get a really usable oil out of those fruits. So they're harvesting it and then sending it to America for like a biofuel, basically, as an alternative to gas. But then also, you can eat it.
Yeah, when someone says palm oil, I think of like the spreads, and
Yeah.
like chocolate hazelnut spread.
I can name a couple companies. They're actually under Mondelez, so they're a huge marketing company that own a bunch of food things like Sour Patch Kids and Oreos, Cadbury. If you did see that commercial and you're worried about palm oil, there are some things that you can avoid this Christmas. But yeah, so apparently all these brands are responsible for destroying 70,000 hectares of rainforest and orangutan habitat just since 2016.
Oh,
So this
Oh my
is like,
goodness.
yeah, it's not like over like 100 years or something. This is like really recently. They're burning down the rainforest so they can grow this stuff. So, I mean, I love businesses and I love celebrating them, and I think businesses are going to change the world and do the right thing. But if you really want to get like hardcore zero waste, that maybe you could avoid some of those products. But if you're zero waste, you're probably avoiding them anyway because they come in packaging. So, I mean, it depends on what you want to do, right? If you want to decrease your carbon footprint, or if you want to decrease your waste, or if you want to save a rainforest, or if you just want to do everything you can, right? You can kind of pick and choose because it's tough.
So what would you say about like just regular kind of Christmas chocolates? Do most of them have palm oil as an ingredient? Like,
I don't know. I haven't bought them in so long.
I'm wondering, because there's local like chocolatiers. I wonder what they use. So I might actually look into that, because that could be a nice thing, is just still supporting local business and like getting chocolate that's made with, you know, maybe with butter instead of like all this oil and stuff. Mm-hmm. It probably tastes better too.
And that's the interesting thing, because vegans would prefer the palm oil, but like,
true.
It's like massively destructive, right? So it's all about who you are and what you want to do and the choices you want to make.
Yes.
To make the world that you want to see.
Yeah. Back when you were a kid and bought these cookies, and you have this relationship with a company, so you see them as only doing good because they've been a part of your life and you've recognized that.
110%. Yep.
But I trust local companies that I can see the face of the person and I can talk to them. I trust them. I trust lots of great local companies, and I think it's good to build those relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting because I think the world is kind of turning more nationalist. Some people say it's problematic, but it actually could help the environment, because sometimes people care more about their immediate environment. Like, it's possible, this is just a theory, but it might be possible that people will care more about their local environment more so than trying to tell a Canadian in Ontario that over in Indonesia some forests are burning.
Yeah.
Like, because it's sometimes just too far away for people to like
conceptualize, right?
Grasp, and people care about so much, and they're worried about so much, and they're busy so much. Like, do they have time to like fit the burning forests of Borneo into their list of concerns? Maybe not.
I think that it's, you know, hard to expect people to be up in arms about the environment if they're worried where their next meal is coming from.
Yeah, because it's often that they just don't know. That's what I'm finding everywhere. Yeah. Like, nobody knows about this stuff. Because I, like Rachel said, kind of live in the woods, and like then I just like emerge from the woods a couple times a week and like go back into the normal world, and then like my eyes are wide because I'm in a grocery store line looking at everybody buy all this plastic, and I don't think this person sucks. Like, I think this person doesn't know that a whale just died with like 100 plastic cups in its belly and like 80 plastic bags, because if they knew, I don't think they would really be buying it. So I don't think anything bad about people that are doing it. I just wonder, like, how can I tell them? And I'm not going to tell them in the checkout line.
Well, I mean, I've had some really great encounters with people over the last couple months, especially at Bulk Barn, where I'm buying, I have my containers, and they're like, I didn't know you could do that. That's awesome.
I love that.
And I love that, because it goes to show why working in communications can be difficult, because there's a sign right on the door of Bulk Barn that says you can bring your own containers. You know, it's like, and the information is there, but I can't even say face with it because the sign is right there. But it's just having that connection in that moment of like, oh, you're doing that, I could do that. Mm-hmm. And then I go show them like, oh, this is actually a spaghetti sauce jar. I didn't even have to buy any containers. Like, I just used what I have. And they're like, I'm going to do that next time. And I think those are the moments that are good. And then none of that started with me saying like, oh, well, did you know this is happening in the world? Because I find that can come across as condescending. That's not helpful.
No. And as soon as someone feels attacked whatsoever, they're just going to like refute whatever you say.
Yep.
Like, you can't let them put up those walls, or they will stand behind those walls and throw mud back at you.
Yeah.
No matter what you say. So what you're saying is like people see and they respond positively.
Yeah.
So I don't even have to say anything. So one was Bibs meat.
Yep.
Bibs is good. So they will fill up your container. They will try to give you a bag.
Yes.
Once you do it. But the people will put meat in your container. And the Country Butcher, like out on Highway 62 in Foxborough, they're fantastic. They're my favorite. They will put it into containers, and they're really nice about it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Those are local butchers, but I think we both experienced in the bigger like box stores, like chain grocery stores, you know, that, oh, we can't take your containers over the counter. I guess we've also found that at more local places, but
yeah, people are real scared of that stuff.
Yeah.
But the thing with meat, like if you're vegan, that's like good and you're like way ahead of the game, right? But we have to understand that, like, I don't know how many billions of people eat meat, but like a lot of people eat meat. It's a very normal thing for people. So it's cool that people stop eating meat entirely, but then what if we just tried to get people to reduce it as well, more so
Or
than
the
just,
way we eat meat.
yeah,
That's what I think.
and the way
about.
we raise it and all that
Yeah.
stuff, right? Because it's really gross right now, like what we're doing to animals, and it's not fair. So if you can find stuff that's like locally raised and like animals that have time outside, I think is important. If you read Eating Animals was a book that just made me not buy. I haven't bought meat from a grocery store since I read that book.
Good.
I can't do it because some of those animals are suffering.
Yeah, and I totally agree that I think being vegan is the best thing you can do for the environment in a lot of cases.
But the land that's not good for growing crops, if you don't use that for pasturing animals, then you're wasting it as
Maybe-
land. That's the only argument I've
Yeah.
heard from actually Nova or something on PBS for eating meat and being environmental. Otherwise, yeah, all the arguments point to vegan's better.
Well, maybe I'll say instead, I think eating less meat and less animal byproducts is better. And
Yeah.
I think that's bad for the environment. And,
And
that's not a
then
good choice.
the waste part too, right? Like you get the plastic, and then we're actually very lucky here about styrofoam because most places don't collect or recycle styrofoam, and you guys do, which is fantastic.
Yeah, just the white stuff. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of black and pink styrofoam that we can't recycle, but you're right, it's still better than in other places where we can't take it at all.
And then that like gross pad.
Oh,
What
that's
even
the
is
worst.
that?
I don't know.
Probably like a cellulosic material, like a pad, like a menstruation pad.
It's
Touching your meat.
horrible. Horrible.
So gross. And you can't, like, there's nothing like you could do with that except
You
send
know,
it to the
I
dump.
would rather take the time to go to a local butcher with my container and ask them to fill it up than ever see one of those gross, soggy things at
Yeah.
the bottom of a chicken ever again. Just the sound it makes when you rip it.
Oh gosh, yeah, they're gross. So yeah, there's a lot of options you can do. Like if you are getting, I guess, like some sort of meat for your Christmas dinner. I mean, not everybody can go to a local farm, right?
Oh,
So-
that's something I do for Christmas too. Is me and my family, we go to a local like restaurant and they like have a buffet for Christmas.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, there's still all where that food is coming from, but it's another way to do something together.
And it's
Then-
zero waste too,
yeah, it's
right?
zero waste, yeah.
So like if you're not gonna make if you're gonna make a turkey dinner, which is what a lot of people do here, I
Mm-hmm.
would say. So you're gonna have the plastic bag. Usually it's wrapped in like a mesh thing, almost
Yeah.
like a fishnet.
Why? Who knows?
I don't know. Or where those things will end up. And then there's like the price sticker, right? And then a lot of people do cranberries. So you got the can. It's probably lined with BPA, so you're probably going to dose everyone with estrogen at your table.
But then again, where does it come from at the restaurant?
Good
They probably
point.
make it. If it's a nicer restaurant, they probably make it from
I
cranberries.
would think it would probably come from a can at a restaurant.
Oh.
That's a good point, though. I mean, vegetables are good. You can have all this garbage to like cook your own meal, or you can just go to a restaurant.
Yeah, but I think at least when you're going to a restaurant, even though they have the waste from whatever they're getting their food in, if they're buying in bulk, it's way less waste, right? Not everything's not individually wrapped. So I'm assuming that wherever their supplier is, they are wrapping
point.
it all together. And also, a lot of really nice restaurants in the area, and this is also a movement that I think is happening all across North America, is just going to these specialty restaurants that source their food locally. You have to look for the restaurants like that.
Well, the Lark in Belleville is doing
Lark,
exactly
yeah,
that.
That's good. Do they have meals or is it more
Oh, yeah.
just that? Oh,
Yeah. They were part of Quinny-licious, so they did like the whole local thing.
awesome.
And they have some local like drinks and stuff, and they like jar their like a lot of their stuff and then serve that, which I think is really neat.
That's really neat. And then it can encourage like that idea of jarring and preserving things or making them like in serving sizes, which is great.
Yeah, and you're not getting the BPA from the cans because a lot of that stuff would probably come from a can anyway.
Well, that reminds me of like when I was at the Canadian Rural Innovation Summit, the one night they had food and it was just local wineries, but also local like people who had a food truck and they would bring their like
Oh, cool.
little food. So there was all this local food and like it would have been really great if we had reusable plates, but there wasn't any like kitchen really to like, I guess there was, but no one signed up to do that.
That's the hard part. No one wants to wash dishes anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have for like the 200 people if they're like, we're gonna have this plastic, or you can wash these dishes.
I would have too for a ticket.
Yeah.
I would have washed dishes for
Yeah.
a ticket.
Like people will do
Washing
that.
dishes is
Let
not that
people do
bad.
it. It's not that bad. It's warm water, and like that's as much as you can ask for this time of year.
Get your hands warm.
It's
Yeah.
like really, I'm winning. I get a ticket and I'm warm, so like win-win. Yeah, but it was like a really good step because it was all local.
You know what's going on actually on Fridays at the break room in Belleville is at Guapos Cantina. Have you heard about them? They do like Friday night bites. I think different food trucks, like food places from the county come in and do it there. But Guapos Cantina brought their own plates and their own forks and knives, and I had actually come prepared. So I had brought things in my bag just in case,
Good
like
for
forks
them.
and whatever. And then I showed up and they had them there, and I thanked them and spent like $40 on food because
Nice.
they had the plates and forks and knives.
Yeah.
And so I was really happy to see that. So yeah, some people really get it, which is really nice to see.
That is really nice.
Yeah.
I don't know. When I buy for myself, I'm just like, what's healthy? Like, I just go to one grocery store and get all my produce, like freaking loose Brussels sprouts sometimes. I'm just like, sorry. No,
Like
never.
rolling down a conveyor belt.
I have a reusable bag, but everything's very loose, and I'm always like, oh, these people probably are very annoying because I'm like the girl who yells at them about no bags before they say anything, and I just have all this like loose produce. But then I go to like bulk brand and get all my grains, so I find my diet is very like unhealthily healthy sometimes, where I'm like very strict with this stuff.
All these things that are like bad for you, you can make yourself without all the bad ingredients, pretty
And
much.
they're just as good, if not better.
And then it gives you something to do. Like everybody's complaining about kids on their tablets and stuff. Like tell them to go make stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it's easier said than done, but we make stuff at home all the time.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
nice
thing,
to make the time for this. It's enjoyable. Like, I'd rather make banana bread on Sunday night than watch TV, I think.
Yeah, or you can do both too if
You can do both.
depending on how your house
I
is.
listen to podcasts, so that's what.
Nice.
Like this. So I'll put this on. I'll hear your voice talking to whoever you're talking to, and then make banana bread, and that's really nice.
Nice. You were saying you think about when you get a gift, you like think about it like before, after, and right now, right? You think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to not think about it in those terms because I'm so far down the rabbit hole of like
Yeah.
all of this.
I see people getting engaged all the time over Christmas and like posting what they got on their Snapchat stories
okay.
and Instagram stories and like sharing every moment and all these like blessed posts of their like hot chocolates from Starbucks and
Oh wow.
new outfits and new hair. Holiday hair is a big thing.
Is it?
Yeah, you have to get your hair done like 2 months before Christmas because the holidays are booked right up.
Oh, for like work parties and stuff.
Yeah.
We'll go to a green circle salon if you're doing that.
Yeah, there is a lot in the area actually.
Is there more than Salon U?
Yeah, Polish.
Polish?
Yeah.
They're green circle too?
Yeah, because I listened to that episode right before I got my hair done last weekend, and I saw like the sticker on on the mirrors. So I asked them about it and confirmed that they are a part of that.
So yeah, if you're getting your holiday hair, look for
Green
Green Circle Salon.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything else about Christmas that you wanted to talk about? Or other holidays? I mean, a lot of this stuff applies to other holidays too, I suppose.
Yeah. I think just thinking more about like the purpose of a gift and if you want to make people feel good, like there's other ways to do that, and taking someone out to dinner is always a great alternative. I think that buying them something, I think a lot of us just don't need more things, and like it's a nice feeling to get a gift, but remember the implications of that. And like I know now if I get something new, and I would never tell someone who gives me a gift like all of this, but the feeling is more like, where did this come from? What is it made out of? What happened in order for this to get to me? And like what will happen once I'm done with it? And those are a lot of big questions that make it less like joyous. But then again, like I'm finding maybe it's just because I'm getting older, or maybe it's because of what I'm learning. Like the joy truly comes from like food and like being around people and like doing activities together and all that. Of course, like the spirit of Christmas, that's what it's all about, you know, those nice feelings. And like that doesn't come from a wrapped present. This is so tacky. I feel like this is ending like all the Christmas movies end, where we figure out the true
We're like tearing up. We're like,
true
we found
meaning
it.
of Christmas.
We found it, Ebenezer. But no, it's true. Yeah, it is. And I feel like, you know, Hollywood has been telling this to us for so long, and like, why don't we pay attention and stop buying things?
Because
for
Hollywood is telling us this, but every other
in between on the
media,
commercials.
yeah, exactly. And so I would also recommend supporting local businesses where you can this holiday season.
Absolutely.
That's thoughtful, and then you're making a local family's Christmas a lot better too.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's pretty good for a Christmas episode. So thank you for joining us again, Rachel Revoy. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for having me again.
And yeah, so I wish everyone a Merry Christmas, and I hope that you've taken something away to lower the waste, and that you enjoy it with friends and family, and bless you all.
Merry Christmas!
Awesome. Okay, thank you.
Also, thanks to Kevin McLeod from Incompetech.com for his fantastic Christmas music used in this episode. Happy holidays, and thank you for listening. Together, we can make a better, healthier, and cleaner world.